Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tuesday. I am thrilled to be here with you today, and I've got a great guest. He is here live, and before I introduce him, I'm going to go ahead and run the intro. Hi, my name is Abbie Ritchie. I am the host of Tech Tuesday. I'm also the founder and CEO of Senior Savvy, which relieves tech stress for older adults so they can excel in today's world. I'm thrilled to be here today with none other than Mr. Jack York. Welcome to Tech Tuesday, Jack.
Oh, Abbie, I think you should tell people that 1 minute ago I emailed you saying I couldn't find the link, and you're trying to maintain your composure through the ultimate stressful situation that you handled so well. So I am here on time.
Thank you. Yes, it's wonderful to see you. I'm thrilled to be that you're here. And I was just texting with Steve Moran, your doppelganger, and just saying, where is he? I hope he shows up because I have something kind of special for you. Now, I know you've been very busy this whole month, right? This month of April, very, very busy, right?
Well, I mean, do you want the truth or do you want me to go along with that?
Well, goodness, you were so many places. You were like all over the place. Is that how you always roll?
But there's a difference between being hectic and I mean, I'm living the dream. So it's busy. I guess it is busy, but it's like, when I have my Steve Moran mugs, I want to have that look, that look of Steve, holding the little mug thing, but it calms me. I hold this and it calms me. It gives me peace. So yes, I guess I am busy. But it's a cool busy as opposed to the many years that I had of stress busy.
Yeah, especially when you are able to travel the way you want to travel, right? And it looks like in the past month, you were able to see a lot of people, go a lot of places, and really enjoy some time with your doggie.
It's right here, baby.
And yeah.
Lucky.
Hello, Lucky.
Lucky.
Yep, talk to Lucky. Yeah, he's like,
the 19-year-old. The 19-year-old dog.
What a tribute. So I think you've left out a couple of things though that you did on your cross-country trip. And so I want to share some things that I found weren't exactly posted all over maybe LinkedIn, maybe not on Facebook, but so in case you don't know, Jack went on a road trip with his dog, Lucky, last month. And he documented it because so many people were wildly interested in the escapades of his dog, right?
Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's the context of the trip. And I should say trips because this is the second one.
Nice.
And I'm in Florida right now, and I'll probably be driving to California. I'm leaving Thursday to go back to Colorado, and then a couple weeks to California. It's about at the end. Lucky's 19, and he can't walk virtually at all, but he loves rides, and so it's kind of a tribute to him to just let him go out doing what he loves to do. And it's ironic. It's a whole other conversation to have just about how we are at the end of life with dogs relative to sometimes with people. So I think what's resonated is more the pain and the joy and the emotion people have with their dogs and the angst you have when you have to say goodbye. And I think people I'm fortunate to be able to do something like this. Most people aren't. And I think that's kind of what's resonated, which has nothing to do with Tech Tuesday, but it is relevant.
Well, what people may not also know is that you brought along all of Lucky's best friends along for the ride, although we only saw Lucky. And when you were in Omaha, you visited LifeLoop, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But what people don't know was that you also entered the Omaha Steaks Barbecue Championship, and you're a winner. Way to go. All right. With your 2 buds.
Is this called Moran payback? This feels like it's Moran payback to a certain extent.
Oh, no. This is all me. So, and then you went to the NAAP conference, right?
Yep.
And then along the way, you stopped at the Mall of America. That looks really fun, and that looks like something I would do too.
My arms are bigger there. Yep, there's Western Home, good old Chris Hansen.
Yeah, look at those big. Okay, and then there's Chris Hansen. So while you were in Iowa, you entered the Drake Relays. That's my husband's alma mater right there. But you also visited the Iowa caucus. You are so busy.
Yeah, I'm neutral. Yep, New Orleans.
But this was my favorite. You visited friends in New Orleans, and then what did you do? You went to the Jazz and Heritage Festival. You made a big show there. So I like what you said in one of your recent interviews. You said something to the extent of, you could take your work seriously, but never take your life seriously. And I appreciate that, because I'm kind of a serious person. I'm kind of serious about things, but I know that I have people in my life who are like to have a good time and like to make a well-meaning joke every now and then just to lighten the mood, right? So tell me, Jack, have you always been kind of lighthearted and
what I am, and this sounds kind of hokey to say, but I've talked to Steve about this, that I am so grateful. I am as grateful as a human being could be about my life, about my kids, about what I&2L has turned into, about my relationship with Francis from Cameroon, with all these people that I've met over the years that are so selflessly giving their lives to working in senior living, that I think a lot of this exuberance, for a lot of the early years of I&2L, I had to I just had to compartmentalize, because I was so stressed out and we were so broke and we were so ahead of the curve in what we're trying to do. But you can't convey that to people that you're trying to sell to, or to people that you're trying to flip their perception of aging. And so I had kind of this just an imbalance that I had to have just to survive. And I think now I'm just at this page of my life. I'm at this kind of synergy of not being stressed out about that stuff, but just so grateful for so many people that made all these dreams come true of mine. So I think that makes me, I don't know what the right word to use is, but it is. And it's funny. I always attributed that quote to Oscar Wilde. It's good to have it to connect to the right person, but it's really, I'm so serious about the work that I&2L has done over the years. And I think my flippancy may sometimes get lost in that, but I'd rather err on that side than the other.
Well, we all appreciate it. We really do. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Steve Moran on. He just happened to pop on. So Steve Moran here, joining us.
Hey, Steve Moran here.
Yeah.
You should actually be using this.
I know I had the wrong one. I had the wrong hype. I realized.
Well, Abbie, and I owe you some swag. And by the way, we're going to make it so that we get some of the swag out to other people. So, but I do, Jack. I love your passion for what you do. As you know, I sort of teasingly, I don't know if I've ever done this publicly before, but here we go. I sort of describe you as the P.T. Barnum of senior living. You're such an amazing storyteller. And what I love is that you make senior living look so attractive and so wonderful for human beings. And I think sometimes that gets missed. So.
Yeah. And again, my story, Steve, that I grew up in the Silicon Valley world, and I was just like everybody else. You just drive by a nursing home, and you just drive by a senior living community, and you don't go inside. And I think, again, Steve knows this story, but for 20 years, I was selling to senior living, and I wasn't doing this, in a bad way, but I just kind of walked by the residents. And the last few years, it's
Mhm.
really been the first time in my career that I've really embraced the residents and
Mhm.
their stories and their passion and their lives. And it really, it's it's interesting how much you can still change at different stages of your life. And that whole experience on that 60/20 tour very much changed my whole perception of of just the importance of all this.
Mhm. Yeah, I know when I'm working with people one on one and they start their story right away, I just say to myself, shelf your agenda, Abbie, and listen up because
Yeah.
there's wisdom and there's life in that story that's going to help you connect with them on a deeper level. So
Yeah,
I
to that point, it was funny. I don't think I've ever told you this, Steve, but like it was amazing to me the first 10 years of I Into Well when we were just trying, half of what we were doing was just trying to convince people there was a demand for technology for residents, especially residents living with dementia. But I would talk to administrators and executive directors that were telling me why they couldn't afford IN2L or couldn't buy IN2L. And then they would say in the next sentence, man, I wish I had this for my mom or dad. And it was so discongruent and it wound up, to be honest, it wound up being a great sales opportunity. Because once I got people talking about their mom or dad, it was like, how can you not, you're working with all of these moms and dads. How can you not do this for just a few $100 a month? But it was interesting, kind of that line that people would draw between their professional running a community line and the humanity of being a son or a daughter. And I just think I think, as I'm sure this is kind of what you'll get to, Abbie, as we talk, but I think that's part of one of the silver linings of COVID is it just brought a humanity or a lack of humanity if you didn't have that connection. And there's a lot of things that only technology can provide for people remote. And it's not saying technology replaces people at all, but it just allows for a level of engagement that it can't happen without it. And I think that again, it was something that was positive out of COVID.
absolutely, absolutely. And the baseline for saying to someone, so have you gotten your parents on Zoom yet?
Yeah.
That baseline, just brings everyone to exactly the same place and understanding what the issue is and what the need is perfectly.
Yeah. And again, and I've always preached this, that it's to me, it's artificial to put any of this into an aging box. We all like our music. We all like our spirituality. We all like our family. You get older and you haven't grown up with this stuff. A lot of people have now, the Jack Cummings of the world, but a lot of people haven't, and then they're dealing with physical issues, or physical or cognitive issues, and that's just. But the thirst to stay connected and engaged, to me, it only accelerates as you get older. It doesn't decelerate, and so
Yeah.
again, it just becomes an obvious fit to look at technology as a way to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And so tell me, in the past couple of years, how much has technology changed in terms of your offering and what you're doing with IN2L? And how much do you plan on it adapting with the introduction of LifeLoop?
Yeah, I mean the LifeLoop thing is so cool, and I'll go into that in a second. But I just think that, and Steve, you and I have talked about this. I just think that the the number of people that would put barriers up was moving, kind of. I'm trying to see. It was kind of moving like this, but it was still moving in the right direction through the 2010s, whatever you call that, the teens and stuff. And all of a sudden, it just went like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened is that it's my experience for 22 years now with IN2L is that some people just get it, and a lot of people don't. And all of a sudden, the number of people that got it just grew exponentially. And again, I think a lot of it was because they were dealing with these issues with their parents and grandparents, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it becomes personal. And so I think from a 30,000-foot standpoint, I think the biggest difference is just the acceptance, the importance of this kind of technology. Both my parents are gone, but if I would have been in that position of helping them choose a community, honestly, I think it might be my first question is how do I stay connected to mom or dad, and how do you make them stay relevant? What are the tools that you have? And technology is a piece of that puzzle, but to act like it, to not have that in your arsenal, I think is to the detriment of any provider. From a LifeLoop standpoint, I mean, just on a personal level, it's so meaningful to me. I've known Amy Johnson, Nick Niemer for years and years. How many cocktails have we had together at late in the evening at different senior living events? And just philosophically, we're so aligned with them as a company. And from a product standpoint, now we are majority owned by a phenomenal private equity company called Vista Equity Partners, and they were able to accelerate that transition. And I just think that what Vista has seen from an investment standpoint, and what the world has seen forever inside of senior living, is that it's ludicrous to make all these providers have to go to all these different places to buy not exact functionality, but similar functionality. And I think that we don't have any competition. There's nothing competitive about our relationship with LifeLoop, but it's such an extension of our content adding to what they do, and their communication tools to staff and families adding to what we do. And it takes a while to make these things happen. There's always pain in transactions, and some people wishing it was the good old days. And I always like to remind people that they were bitching and moaning about stuff during the good old days. So it's not quite that black and white, but it really is. I think it's just the first, I'm speaking, this is my opinion, not with any insider knowledge, that I just think it's the first of probably a lot of different things that Vista is going to put together, with the goal being to put together really that never-ending multi-decade goal of one platform that can be providing a variety of services for residents, staff, and family.
I guess that was sort of my question is, do you think this is just the first of more consolidation? Because I think one of the big challenges that operators have, it's sort of broad and narrow at the same time, is that, we've got Argentum coming up in a week and a half, right? And a big part of what happens at Argentum is there's this big trade show floor, right? And you walk through there and there'll be, 300-500 vendors that are selling mostly really good stuff, right? And so if I'm an operator, how do I figure out which one is going to be right for me? And I was at I got to speak at a corporate gathering for Juniper, and one of the things that we talked about there was, in one of the areas of frustration that I get, when I face even in our platform, is you got all these bits and pieces, and you spend a small fortune, dribbling away from, tens of dollars a month to hundreds of dollars a month, and then none of it all talks together, right? And so how do we get, wouldn't it be just cool to have one place you could plug in and get everything you need?
Yeah, and I will. I'm trying to say this the way that they do it on TV shows. The opinions expressed are those expressed by Jack York, not of either of Tech Tuesday or of Vista Private Equity. So my intuition and opinion is that that's what Vista saw. That Vista saw the opportunity to build something much bigger, but to do it step by step, just to allow for just kind of a normal integration in a world that, and it used to frustrate me how slow people moved. And I guess you still have that. I still have a little bit of that, but as I've gotten more Zenish in my older years, it's like I grew up in the Silicon Valley, as Steve knows, and people would make quick decisions with no loyalty, as opposed to this world where they take forever to make decisions with incredible loyalty. And then you take a step back, and the first decade of the company, I would say, well, they just don't get it, or they too risk averse, or blah blah blah. And then for me, as I've gotten older, it's like, as I've gotten to know, you're dealing with people's lives. You're fundamentally have the lives of people in your hands, and obviously there's a litigation part to that. But I think it's more just you you have to be cautious. And Steve, if you and I have seen, you know, it's always interesting when you used your Genema analogy, you know, how many of those companies are back the next year, you know, and because, you know, they're in this quest for venture capital, and they, you know, and they're one of the joy, I think one of the why IN2L survived is it was just my own going broke the first 8 years that I didn't have to answer to anybody. So I could 100% focus on trying to make the company better, as opposed to frustrated investors who didn't get how long this stuff all takes. But I think that's the other reason to be cautious if you're a provider, is no matter how cool the technology is, what juice does the company have behind it to be able to put up with the inevitable length of time it takes to make business happen in this space? It's a long-winded answer. I don't know if I even
Well,
answered
I mean, I think what's fascinating to me about Jack is, you know, you're like this overnight success in some sense, right? That took like 20 years to get there. And all of a sudden, you know, these things just start snowballing. So Abbie, I want to actually ask you a question. And when you're the one who probably more than either Jack or I, certainly more than me, and probably even more than Jack, you're the one who's sort of working, you know, the closest with residents and older people. What are the things that you wish technology would do that would make their lives better?
Thank you for asking. So here's something that would make, when there's an integration with Zoom, that makes lives better, because it's several less steps that someone has to go to in order to connect to virtual activities and to telemedicine and to meet up with family as well. So when there's an automatic immediate integration, like we've seen in some of the platforms with Zoom, brilliant, totally brilliant. I think that that's huge. Another thing is to allow the resident to have control over the settings of some of the skills. So for instance, there's a community I work with where they have, and I'm not going to name names at all, we could talk about it later, but they have a dot in their apartment. It came with their apartment, okay? And it does a lot of things. It's programmed to tell you everything that's going on in the community, but you cannot add skills to it. You can just take it as it is. And the residents dislike this because they have no control over that thing that's in their home.
So I love this, Abbie, because I think you bring up a really important struggle that goes beyond technology, but includes technology, and that's the issue of control. I've sort of come to think about senior living as living in a senior living resident as being a lot like being on a jury. Now, I don't know if you've ever been on a jury, but when you're on a jury, you sit down and the judge has this talk with you. And the judge talks to you about how you're the most important part, because you're going to make this judgment about whether somebody is going to go, in a criminal trial, whether they're going to go to jail or not. You could even have something much more serious in a capital case, right? And, you sort of feel pretty good about it. Yeah, I'm really important. And then what you find out is that as the jury member, you've got the least amount of control over your life during that process of anybody. Maybe in some cases, you're sequestered and you have less control than the person who's being judged. And I think that trying to figure out how to give people as much freedom as possible to control their own lives is something that gets lost. And I think technology is part of that answer.
I mean, I was going to ask it too, Abbie, because what's your? I'm forgetting your tag. You got a great tagline. What's your tech tagline?
We help older adults relieve their tech stress.
Your little your 2-word thing. You're the senior.
The tech
senior
savvy.
Senior savvy.
Yeah. Like how did you become that?
That's a really good question. Similar to yours, I had been driving around my city of Scottsdale for 10 years. I just was driving past the senior communities. They were there. I never went inside. And it wasn't until a little over 4 years ago that, I found myself unemployed. And when I have found myself in this position before, I'm lost, I serve. what I do is I find where people need help and I go there. And while I was unemployed, I started serving my in-laws who had downsized recently and needed help with their tech, and then their neighbor, and then their neighbor. And then I found myself serving a lot of older adults using technology. And I thought, I like this. I'm passionate about it. I love being around older people. So I called those 4, 5, 6 senior communities in a 5-mile radius and offered a free workshop to see if there was a need for it. And by the end of the week, I had 3 bookings. And that's how I started Senior Savvy and just started to build it up from there. But it's really based on a passion of mine, which is to help older adults and to help them with their technology.
Yeah, I think the 3 of us have somewhat analogous stories along those lines. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thanks. So yeah, it's really a fine line between that control and the opportunity to have technology in your residence. Yeah. So those are 2 things that I would find that would help people significantly. And, another thing that I grapple with too is just the notion that older adults are not interested in technology. But you know what? Even if they're not interested in technology, they're interested in connecting with their family and friends. Independent. So, they may not be interested in building a computer, but they're definitely interested in.
It's funny that you said it, because like some of this is not as necessary anymore. But we early in the years of the company, it's like it was so foreign to so many, in the year 2001, 2, 3, it was so foreign for older adults in technology. And it's like, do you want to come use the computer? No way. Hey, but if it was like, hey, you want to go see the Louvre? You want to go visit the Louvre today? And all of a sudden, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. And it's just like or do you want to see your granddaughter? And it's so cool. And again, this is changing because it's just becoming more prevalent. But one of the things that I've loved over the years was exposing people to things like Google Earth, just to show people, do you want to see your house? Put in the address of your house. And the way it does that whole kind of like zoom in from space, it is like so mind boggling for people who haven't, we're so cynical because we just see new stuff every day. But it's just the stuff that you can do is mind-boggling for people who haven't been exposed to it. And I always loved just bringing people that magic of how we've all felt like the first time 16 Main Street, and all of a sudden instead of going through an old map directory, have it go there. Actually, Steve, I got an idea. Can I propose something to you live?
Yes.
And maybe we should bring Michael Owens into this. And I don't know, Abbie, you could join too. But I would love to do a contest of 10 under 30-year-olds that they have to leave their phone, and we give them Street and Smith's map books. And we all meet somewhere like 20 miles away. And the first person to get there driving legally, we give $500 to or something. But when I tell my kids what it was like, a Street and Smith's book, where you flip the pages and you're driving through downtown San Francisco, I think that we need to do a little bit of old school, new school on some of this stuff.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of an alternative on this, right?
I'm not surprised. I
have that sympathy, right? I used to sell to nursing homes in Southern California, and I had what was it, Thomas guidebook or whatever it was?
That's right.
There were like 1,000 nursing homes, and I had them all marked on different pages, and it was not easy because you'd have to look at this master map, and then you have to go back. So I get what you're saying. On the other hand, you're not advocating teaching people how to use either abacuses or, for that matter, even slide rules, right? I mean, they're just obsolete.
No, it's funny. I remember my dad. And this is so relevant to what I've seen over the years, is my dad was a civil engineer, farmer in Nebraska, World War II, all this stuff. And I used to work for him for many years. I worked for his company, and he was livid. He was a slide rule guy, and he was livid when these young engineers were coming in with Texas Instruments calculators that were kind of big, they kind of looked like like a toaster, and he was convinced that was stupid, and it was like it was just the class, and it's been funny, like for IN2L, over the years, a lot. I spoke at NAP, the NAP conference of activity professionals a few weeks ago, and that's right, you had that picture, Abbie, to show there. But the first 10 years of IN2L, we would get so much pushback on price. And in some cases, I get it. But in a lot of cases, the more subconscious pushback is that what we were saying was there's a better way to do your programming than what you've been doing for 20 years. And who wants to hear that? And I think it's all kind of that, again, once you get, which one of you said this before, like once you get people to see the benefit, to talk with their grandkid or whatever it may on Zoom, whatever it may be, then they get it. And I think that's what COVID really did make it come to light. So enough tangents on that last few minutes.
Yeah. So a couple things. So first thing I want to say is I think that, spending money on things that you haven't spent money on before is really tough. I completely untech related, but the first time I went to a 5-day long course, I saw this course on how to be a better public speaker, and I thought, I'm going to do that. And I figured it would be $2,000-$3,000 for the week. And when I found out it was $10,000, I was like, oh, I can't do that. But I bit the bullet, and I've done that several times since then, because I've learned that once I got comfortable with the idea that sometimes you have to spend big money, if you haven't done it before, you don't really realize what the benefit is. And I think that is so true in technology, and so true with what you're doing, and so true with some of the things that we're doing with our partners, honestly, if I can put in my own little self-interest plug here. The other thing I'd like to do is I know, Abbie, we're about out of time here, but let's pop up a couple of these comments here, just because I think they're important. So, connect, and I think, Jack, so much of and Abbie, what we talked about is really the technology is all about creating better connections, right?
Yeah, the human, and that's human in that context is perfect.
Yeah. It's all about humanity, changing people. Go ahead, Abbie. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, whenever I hear people talking about B2B, B2C, whatever, I just think H to H. This is human to human.
Yeah. Oh, that can I steal that? That's a good line.
I love that. And then just a quick congratulations there. And then John, yes, that's kind of what Abbie does. And so if that's something you guys are looking for, you ought to reach out to Abbie. So there's another job that I wouldn't qualify for. I'm the total, as Moran knows, I'm the total fake technology guy. Yeah.
I
have people ask me all the time about how do you do that? I don't know. I got people who know how to do that, and I have no idea. So
for me, it's Michael Gardner and Kurt Frisch, two almost 20-year IN2Lers that have saved my butt 832,000 times over 22 years.
Awesome. Well, Jack, Steve, it's been great. Would love to hear more about LifeLoop, maybe on another show. And just keep up the good work. Keep making people smile. Keep bringing your doggy around and just spreading the love. It's really contagious. So, and it's good.
The next lucky leg is going west. So maybe we'll make I'm going to California. Maybe I'll make an Arizona run on the way.
Please
where in California are you going to be?
For sure, Southern California, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you. It's been a joy to have both of you here. What a treat for me. So thank you.
And Steve, I appreciate you not dressing up for me.
Oh, it's funny. I was actually, I was going to mention this. So I was just getting ready to go take my dog for a walk, and Abbie said, "Why don't you jump on with us?" And so I should have probably put on a Foresight t-shirt or something, but now that we're done, I'm going to go get some steps in.
Yeah. And I apologize, Abbie. Abbie, you've been trying to cut us off for 8 minutes. I apologize. I'll be quiet now.
You should be ready. You should be camera ready every day, Steve, right?
Well, this is about as good as I mean, a better shirt doesn't really help that much for me. So.
Gotcha. Well, guys, have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us today on Tech Tuesday. We'll see you back here next.
Sorry for the stress. Sorry for the 29 minutes out past the hour stress, but you pulled it off well.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to give props to my kids for helping me deal with such stress so gracefully. All right. Goodbye.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thanks.